I want to preface this video by saying I think Phil Spencer seems like a pretty nice guy, and that most of the decisions that he's made at the helm of Xbox seem like pretty consumer-friendly decisions. His messages are based around a core gamer-first mentality, and he's helped position Game Pass as a more consumer-friendly subscription service on a console. He's brought solid studios into the Microsoft family, and on the surface it seems like Xbox Series X is a pretty decent console. He's even delayed Halo Infinite into 2021 in the hopes that it will make it a better game. But looking at the Google Trends metrics and YouTube view numbers, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of people that are interested in Microsoft's next generation console. So what's going on? In this video, I want to look at what Sony has done right with the PlayStation 5 launch and what Microsoft have done wrong with the Xbox Series X launch. Some online commenters have already declared the console war over by declaring that Microsoft aren't even looking at the console war, pointing out that they're not interested in the number of the consoles sold. To that I say, that's a heck of a cop-out answer and verges on damage control. The fact of the matter is, both consoles sell the same third-party games and it's about revenue and profit. So while consoles sold doesn't matter, the money coming in certainly does. I said on Twitter, Sony should be locking in all these desperate people who want to pre-order. Sony's YouTube views simply dwarf Microsoft's 10-to-1 right now. Sony's latest game showcase video has 13 million views, versus Microsoft's last two gameplay showcases at 1.3 million and 700,000 views, respectively. The domination is so overwhelming, I wonder whether Microsoft fans have simply just waved the white flag and jumped ship. The first thing Microsoft did wrong was assume that the console war meant everybody started over and it'd be a free-for-all in terms of neutral, undecided buyers. But that's just not how it works. Microsoft lost last generation by a landslide. Sony sold 100 million units of the PlayStation 4, and Microsoft sold 50 million units of the Xbox One. In reality, Microsoft has a far harder task persuading a Sony fan moving across than a Microsoft fan going to Sony. There is a bigger crowd on the Sony system and people are always going to gravitate towards the winner. And it seems to me there was simply no urgency from Microsoft to win over Sony gamers at any time in the last year or this year. Microsoft's Xbox One X did not generate much excitement. There were hardly any first-party games released from Microsoft. Meanwhile, Sony stayed in conversation with games like Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2 this year. Number 2. Microsoft's consumer-friendly decisions have unfortunately hindered their console business. There's no two ways about it. As much as we all love Xbox games on PC, it simply removes the need to buy an Xbox Series X and therefore generates significantly less word of mouth for Xbox as a brand. It seems Phil Spencer's bet was to use PC gamers to spread the word on Xbox games, but up to now, PC gamers have been unmotivated to fight Xbox's losing battle. Most gamers probably have a PC, PlayStation device, and a Nintendo device. The $500 to $600 saved from buying an Xbox Series X is not insignificant. Finally, number 3, Microsoft's games showcases simply didn't bring any earth-shattering announcements or footage that had to be shared. It showed off cross-generational titles in its first showcase, and in the second showcase, Halo Infinite looked like an Xbox One game. Microsoft's message to the masses, we don't want to leave anyone behind, you'll be supported through the next few years of next-gen, is perhaps the most unconvincing sales pitch for a next-generation console yet. It's almost as if they've been forced into the next era by Sony, even though they originally had the least powerful base console in the Xbox One. On the flip side, Sony's marketing was tight, forceful, and left consumers no choice but to buy a next-gen console. We might not all agree with having next-gen forced upon us, but from Sony's perspective it worked amazingly well. Consumers were simply at the edge and only needed a nudge to buy a new console. Sony's marketing began with Mark Cerny giving a presentation before any PS5 games were shown. This allowed tech heads to process the hardware information and frame the conversation on how the PS5 was a generational leap. And the first topic they dove into was the SSD, a proprietary component that other hardware did not have, not even PCs, and that dominated conversation and continues to this day. Could a PS5 SSD topple PC hardware, the current undisputed king of performance? Seeds of doubt were planted and it had PC gamers nervous. The second tactical move Sony made was showing a next generational tech demo a few days after Microsoft had their first game showcase, which consisted of cross-gen games. It was basically an unfair fight. In terms of YouTube views, Sony dominated 10-1, and that must have had Microsoft bosses shook. In the following weeks, it was revealed that Sony had made a $250 million payment to Epic Games to collaborate on next-generation work in Unreal Engine, but regardless of whether Sony played fair, it clearly helped them. Finally, Sony's game showcase took all the mistakes from Microsoft's first showcase and did their best to fix criticisms. There were gameplay trailers and gameplay footage in Sony's showcase, whereas Microsoft's showcase had far too many story trailers. And Sony revealed their console design, a gaudy, big, loud, black and white box that looked like a reverse Oreo or anime character with a huge collar. It was almost the opposite of Xbox Series X's minimal rectangular tower that was now surprisingly small in comparison. Sony's PS5 design created divisive opinions, but not one that was ugly or nasty, but one that people shared funny memes around and generated engagement. In conclusion, Microsoft's failing next-generation console launch comes down to misreading the market, and Microsoft wanted to sell us subscriptions, but they forgot to sell us the box with it. And at this stage, even if Sony were to be $100 or $200 more expensive with the PlayStation 5, would anyone be swayed back to buying the Xbox Series X? People have already made up their minds. Sony, on the other hand, did whatever it took to convince people to break with the old generation and get the next console. Whether Microsoft wants to admit it or not, getting the console into people's home is half the battle won. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to click like and subscribe to this channel if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.